Mark, just on some of the outcomes of the report, so you talked there about there was feedback on training method, style, nature of sessions. Like, my understanding is that Vera has been quite consistent through her years as a manager around all of those things, and that there wasn't a dramatic change around the World Cup to the way they prepared during qualification and what got Ireland there in the first place. The accusations in the Athletic article were not very different from the accusations that came out in the American report in December. So what changed that you were willing to enter contract negotiations in March, April? The training didn't change, the accusations didn't change, but your attitude to keeping Vera Pauw on seemed to change. What happened in the background?
There's a few things, just to kind of underline Jonathan's point, that the review process was very confidential and privacy, so I don't go into too much detail about what was said. But in terms of your point, as I've said, I've been in the role now 12 months. My role is across the whole pathway. I was given a brief within the role, as well as kind of business as usual, to review all parts of the game, and that's what we've done over the course of the last 6 months, and going out to speak to people at different parts of the game, including international. I've been with the women's camp since I joined. In every camp up to the USA, I was in on match day 1 and watched at least one match. I spent 7 days in the USA with the camp, and I spent just over 3 weeks in Australia. So as well as the review, I've been kind of conducting my own review as part of the brief of my role in terms of what all that looks like. So,
and did you give feedback at any stage during any of those camps to Vera Pauw about her training methods?
Come back to your first question, I'll come back to you. Obviously, I have a view on what that looks like in terms of my own observations. It wasn't until we got to the review where we spoke to lots of stakeholders, and that's players, staff, and also executives, and in my role. So it's a holistic overview of everything that came out of that. So I started to form my view, and then as we go through the World Cup and then go into the review process, it started to become clear that there was a difference in opinion on the way, the methods that we want to take forward to the future. To be fair to Vera, she's always been absolutely consistent and clear on the methods that she chooses to do around sports science, conditioning, training and coaching. And I fully understand, having been in elite sport and elite football for a long time, over 20 years, what those methods are, why they're used, and what they try to achieve. And broadly, the methods that Vera will use, we're talking about looking after the players, making sure they prevented injury, fit and ready for the games, and they were sharp and explosive and ready to go. It was clear in my own view and through the review there are different methods to achieve the same outcomes. And then through the review process, through several conversations with Vera at the start of the process, she was the first person we spoke to, and then throughout the feedback that we got from different people, and then our session again at the end where we went through feedback from the review with Vera, it was clear that the methods that she has learned a lot about, has become an expert in, weren't aligned with where I believe that we need to take forward across all of our international teams.
Would that suggest then that the next female and male national team manager, that their methods would need to align with your vision and your methods?
Yeah, I think in short answer, yes, and not just me, kind of the association in terms of what that looks like, but I've been brought into the role to create a vision for the mid to long term of Irish football. Clearly the focus of any head coach is to look at the next game, to look at the next campaign, and support the wider, bigger picture of Irish football. Absolutely clear on that. My job in my role is to always be thinking 10 years ahead and focus on that and look at the long term. So this decision that we've made, which is unusual in football for a coach to not get a renewal of a contract, is based on a medium to long term vision as well, and not just about things that came out of the review. In this, it's part of the last years of work, of observation, speaking to people, and having a clear view on how we want to create consistency and alignment across all our international teams.
Just one last one, sorry. I know you're going to say you don't want to deal in ifs, but if you had recommended that Vera was offered a new contract, would players have refused to play? Would players have retired from international football? Would it have caused an issue with players if she had stayed on?
I think it would just be speculating if I tried to answer that.